Tom and Jerry is a show that needs no introduction at all. The show has been around for almost a centennial, but yet it still remains a timeless piece of media, not just in cartoons, but in the world. Whether you're a kid or an adult, you probably watch Tom and Jerry at least once in your life, and it's not hard to see why. On the surface, the show has comedy, great musical taste,
Still my baby, baby. See my flame in your heart's done gone out.
and a vintage art style that brings you back to when times were simple, or rough depending on your time period. In a world where you have friendships that consist of multiple cats and dogs, a raccoon and a blue jay, and a sponge and a starfish, how has the friendship of a cat and mouse been the greatest and the most bizarre? Well, out of all 211 episodes, excluding the movies, I've picked out 5 that I believe are some of Tom and Jerry's most memorable and impactful moments in their friendship, along with some honorable mentions. With that being said, we're going to be exploring the bizarre friendship that is Tom and Jerry. Now, as everyone knows, Tom and Jerry's friendship for the last 50 plus years has been rather complicated, to say the least. One moment they're friends, and then the next they're foes. And when they become foes, they fight. For any of my pro wrestling fans that may be watching this, you'll understand it when I say that Tom and Jerry have fight forever vibes. The bigger concern here is, what was their friendship like in the very beginning? Were they always like this? Well, we get a look into what their friendship was like in the very first episode, Puss Gets the Boot. Now, an interesting thing about this is that it functioned more as a pilot than it did an official episode, and you'll see why. In the episode, it starts how you would expect a typical encounter between a cat and a mouse to be. The cat gets the mouse, and that is exactly what is happening here. As a matter of fact, it's so easy for Tom that he's in no rush to make Jerry his meal as he runs away helplessly. Tom is clearly bigger, stronger, and much more aggressive, but in contrast to that, he's cocky and reckless. Being that Jerry is faster and smarter, he uses Tom's recklessness against him by putting him in hot water with his owner. After some back and forth, Jerry uses his intelligence to get Tom to fully cross the line.
And when I says out, Jasper, I means out. O-U-W-T, out.
Now, a couple things about this episode. Being that this is the first official episode for the series, there were a lot of things that had to be changed and fine-tuned before we'd get the Tom and Jerry that we'd soon recognize. Originally, Tom was named Jasper and Jerry was named Jinx, but it would soon change after this episode. Secondly, I'm sure you could tell the difference in the designs of both Tom and Jerry, more so Tom. Compared to the look we now know him for, Tom looked a lot more beastly in appearance. His fur was more bushy, eyes were narrow, and he had fangs and claws to match. But if we are to believe that Tom would grow to be a friend of Jerry's and not some twist villain, he had to look a lot less menacing. But besides all of that, there was something I was asking myself while watching this episode that left me rather confused. Why didn't Tom just end Jerry when he had the chance? I asked that because throughout the episode, from what I noticed, there were at least 4 times where Tom had the chance to put an end to Jerry. Heck, the episode starts with Jerry at Tom's mercy, and had he have done it, we wouldn't have gotten Tom and Jerry. We would have got like, I don't know, Tom and Fabrizio or something. Now, you can say that Tom's cockiness is what clouded his judgment, but if you're willing to entertain me for just a second, I may have another reason why. There's actually a popular internet theory that's been present for the past couple years in the Tom and Jerry community. The theory goes, Tom and Jerry's antics are all a part of an elaborate scheme. The scheme being that Tom pursues and intentionally loses to Jerry in order to protect him. Tom does this to avoid being replaced by his owner with a more ruthless cat that would actually kill Jerry. Now, if this were the case, it would make absolute sense considering Tom could have ended Jerry before the show even started. But the explanation I've seen that easily puts this theory to bed is the fact that there are countless moments where Tom and Jerry are legitimately trying to take each other's heads off. And there actually was an episode where Tom was replaced by a mechanical cat, which was an absolute force of nature. So much of a force that the owner would want Tom back anyways, which would put this theory even more to bed. While this theory does become shallow once you start to analyze it, you can at least say that for this episode, it had some ground to stand on. But after several episodes, much of the same happens between the two in which Jerry is victorious, with some notable moments happening along the way. But what do you get when you have an episode where Tom is victorious? And I'm not talking about, oh, Tom wins an encounter here, but Jerry ultimately gets the last laugh. No, I mean Tom actually wins. Well, you get an episode like The $1 Million Cat. The episode starts how most Tom and Jerry episodes start, with Tom playing around with his food. I mean friend. While the shenanigans are happening, a mysterious letter is sent to the house, which catches Tom's attention. The letter explains that the wishes of Tom's strange aunt grants him a small loan of $1 million. And as you'd expect, Tom absolutely goes bananas. And I mean, who wouldn't? Imagine being a person that didn't have much going on in your life, and out of nowhere, one day, one of your family members just hands you $1 million. Boy, you better have the exact reaction that Tom had here. Seeing all of the commotion going on, Jerry of course takes a look at the letter himself and has the exact reaction that Tom had. Now, why is that? Is it because Jerry is happy for Tom? Well, of course, there's a catch to it all. Tom takes another look at the letter and, as we are all guilty of this, fails to read all of the terms and conditions. Looking further down the letter, the condition is the inherited money that Tom would receive would cease if he had laid harm to any living being, including a mouse. So with all terms and conditions that apply, Tom is officially a millionaire. But now, so is Jerry. Coming out of the penthouse, Tom is ready to splurge out on all of his millions, but almost immediately forgets that he has to share that wealth with Jerry. Ready to take his head off, Jerry reminds him that if he lays a hand on Jerry, then he can kiss that life-changing fortune goodbye. So Tom reluctantly obliges. Now, I'm sure you can see where this is all about to go. Tom is trying to live lavishly while Jerry comes to spoil all the fun. Just as Tom is about to crash out, Jerry holds him back with the letter dangling over him. The biggest thing here is, can Tom keep his composure for the sake of millions? Well, the heart of the episode lies in that question. But the part of the episode I want to highlight is the last part of it. While Tom is angrily waiting for Jerry to finish in the shower, Jerry snatches away Tom's towel, which drives Tom closer to crashing out. Jerry, he keeps poking that bear, ain't he? As a result, Tom begins to concoct a plan to sabotage Jerry. But the thing here is, he has to avoid direct physical contact with him that would make his money null and void. If successful, not only would Tom have all the fortune to himself finally, but he'd be able to enjoy something as simple as a meal with some peace and quiet. And so a light bulb goes off. Tom fools Jerry into believing a fire broke out on the top floor. As Jerry makes his escape, in poetic fashion, the shared fortune goes out the window as well. Just like how Tom was doing backflips in the beginning, the difference here is he actually can enjoy his millions all to himself, along with a tasty meal. Or so it seems that way. Plot armor saves Jerry from his demise and once again spoils Tom's fun. I can't tell whether Jerry is a mouse or a roach. You just can't seem to put him away. Jerry is just outright disrespecting Tom, knowing there isn't any text in the letter saying Jerry can't cause any harm to him that would disqualify his fortune, which would make this an exploit. But Jerry will go a little too far this time, as rotating shots to the face to Tom would bring him to his final straw. Now, obviously, before he crashes out, Tom is gonna come to his senses and realize that none of this is worth throwing his millions away, right? Right?
Wrong.
Tom takes the very thing that Jerry used as a proverbial shield and absolutely shatters it. As a last-ditch effort, Jerry gives Tom a reminder that even a mouse cannot be harmed, but how Tom sees it, even a mouse is not immune to his wrath. Tom unloads all of his frustrations on Jerry.
I'm throwing away $1 million.
But I'm happy!
Now, the wiki documents this as the first episode in which Tom wins against Jerry, as in, he gets the last laugh. While that may be true on the surface, I feel compelled to ask, what did he really win? Once Tom inherited the money his aunt gave him, he had won in life. It was up to him on whether he wanted to give that up for a pesky mouse. When you watch this episode, I know you were thinking, there ain't no way in the world I would throw away generational money for some petty beef, no matter how bothersome. But this episode really showed me how we as humans can sometimes foolishly throw away our blessings in exchange for temporary satisfactions. Usually, Jerry is the sympathetic figure that you love to cheer for and see win in these episodes. But surprisingly enough, I found myself siding with Tom here. If you consider that Jerry latched off of Tom's inheritance and came off more as an entitled brat, he served more as an antagonist. So for Tom, if he saw this as a way of getting the last laugh in what would be a rare instance, then I guess for him it was worth it. I mean, it's really up for debate. Nonetheless, this episode would prove to be a memorable one for both characters. But if there's one thing that you can take from this episode, if nothing else, money cannot buy happiness. Now, before I move on to the third episode, I would like to feature the first honorable mention. This episode I remember greatly because of a character that would add a whole new wrinkle into the relationship of Tom and Jerry. In the episode The Bodyguard, a dog known as Spike would be added to the mix. Now, a little known thing about Spike is that this wouldn't be the first episode that he'd be featured in, as that will go to Dog Trouble. However, in that episode, Spike doesn't have a name nor a voice, so his presence wouldn't be as impactful as it would be here. The premise of the episode is pretty self-explanatory. Spike pleads for Jerry to rescue him from the dog pound in exchange for his services as a bodyguard. So anytime Jerry is in danger, he can call for Spike and he'll handle business, all from the sound of a whistle. This dynamic is different because while Tom is bigger, stronger, and more imposing, he's easily outmatched in every way with Spike now in the picture. He is the equalizer that Jerry needed. I remember this episode in particular because of a master plan that Tom created to suppress Jerry's cry for help. No matter how hard Jerry tried to whistle, it was no use. Until it took everything in Jerry's soul to let out the biggest whistle he could possibly make. While it was a distress call for Jerry, it would be a swan song for Tom. Or so we would think. The inevitable happens when the thing Spike was trying to avoid ultimately gets him in the end. Seeing a character like Spike and how he handled Tom in this episode truly fit the saying of pick on someone your own size. And seeing Jerry work up all that he had left to call out to Spike just added to the courageous trait we know him for. After this episode, Spike would serve as a welcome addition to the limited roster of Tom and Jerry, and he's one who I think added a nice change in tempo for the cat and mouse dynamic. So far, we've seen Tom and Jerry in their beginning stages, an episode where Tom wins, and an episode where Tom meets his match. But the one thing in common with all three of the aforementioned episodes is that all of them had to do with Tom being in contention with Jerry and seeing him as a threat to his livelihood. But what do you get when Tom actually needs Jerry's help? And not just needs his help, but something more drastic as Tom's soul rests in Jerry's hands. Well, you get an episode episode that not only shook me, but a multitude of children to their core in the episode Heavenly Puss. The episode begins with Tom laying next to a fireplace, presumably at night. Seeing this, Jerry believes Tom to be asleep, which he thinks is the perfect opportunity to go out for a late night snack. Tom, however, has eyes in the back of his head. When he least expects it, Tom takes the first swipe at Jerry and almost calls it an early night, but Jerry dodges at the last minute and the chase is on. As Jerry is running up the staircase, a literal rug is pulled up from beneath him, which causes a slope-like surface, making it harder to escape. However, upon the top of the staircase lies a piano that is dragged along with the rug and is headed straight towards him. Seeing what is danger ahead, Jerry quickly moves out the way, but Tom, well, it seems that he pressed the wrong button during the QuickTime event. Now, one would think after this exchange, like with most Tom and Jerry encounters, Tom would just dust himself off and the cycle would continue because that's what we've been groomed to think. But this time around, things will play out a lot differently. Instead of getting back up and continuing, Tom doesn't get up at all. As a matter of fact, he doesn't get up ever again. With stairs draped in white and gold in front of him, Tom's spirit ascends the stairs while looking down at his deceased body. The path ahead is long and vast, and before he knows it, he is on the stairway to heaven. Once at the top, Tom sees an endless landscape of what I can only describe to you as a paradise that is confined in gold. At the entrance of the gate lies a train express clerk that is checking in some friends that Tom is very familiar with. They're there because they would experience some unfortunate events as well. All that is left for Tom is to hear his verdict. But the thing is, Tom will come to grips with the truth that you really don't want to hear at the gates of heaven.
Apparently your whole life was spent persecuting an innocent little mouse. With a record like that, I can't let you through.
The very thing that Tom did to rid himself of agitation would ultimately be his downfall. However, it's not all doom and gloom yet, as he would have one more chance to redeem himself. Tom is given a certificate of forgiveness, and if it is signed by Jerry, then Tom officially can be allowed into the kingdom. But if he doesn't get it signed, Tom's face says it all. Oh, and by the way, he only has an hour before the train leaves. Once resuscitated, Tom is immediately reminded about the limited time that he has and approaches Jerry in a way that we've never seen before. He's extremely apologetic and non-aggressive, so much so that he even has a cake to show for it. Now, being that just 2 minutes ago, this man had a literal piano hurled at him by Tom, how would you have expected Jerry to have reacted? If you expected him to retaliate, then you're correct. Just as he's about to return the favor, Tom is once again reminded about the task at hand. Not only is time running out, but Tom is getting desperate. He's so desperate that he even tries to forge Jerry's signature on the certificate, but is immediately let known that that won't slide. Tom needs to think of something quick. Once again, Tom comes with a peace offering and the certificate, but Jerry sees right through his phony ways and rips up the certificate right in front of him. Filled with rage, Tom grabs Jerry and is about to do the thing that put him on the path of damnation to begin with. But soon after, he gets a first-hand look as to what could happen if he goes through with his actions.
Let's go. Come on.
Time's almost up, Tom. As a last-ditch effort, Tom presents Jerry with what is left of the certificate and proceeds to illustrate to him what is at stake here. Tom's soul is on the line, and although he has a tough time understanding the weight of the situation, Jerry sees and understands the weight that is on Tom's shoulders. So with moments left, he finally signs it. In a hurry, Tom grabs the certificate, hightails it to the stairs, and makes it just in time. Thomas, your time isn't here yet. I need you to wake up. Wake up, Thomas. Thomas. Come to find out, it was all just a dream. And as he comes to the realization, Tom is overjoyed with relief. Now, before I move any further with the episode, there was a lot that was brought to the table with it, with one of the biggest being that this episode had a great impact on myself and a lot of other children back in the day. Why, you might ask? Well, if you watched Tom and Jerry growing up, then you grew to appreciate the figurative and literal cat and mouse dynamic that they both had, which would make this moment all the more unexpected. Even though Tom came off more as an antagonist in most of the episodes, that didn't negate his purpose for the show and our entertainment. More importantly, I grew up in a Christian household, so my concept of Christianity and salvation at the time obviously wasn't as developed as it is today. I say that because I witnessed an episode where Tom, a fictional character, experienced what the Bible and many Christians view as a real and prophesied truth, known as Hades, the lake of fire, or as a lot of us know it as, hell. This episode hit a little too close to home on a spiritual level. Now, don't get me wrong, I loved seeing Tom get what he deserved, but I never thought I'd see him suffer like this. Even if you aren't religious, I'm sure you understand what Tom was experiencing was a grim and serious consequence that deserved your attention. But oddly enough, I not only see Heavenly Puss as the darkest moment, but I also see it as the most wholesome for what would happen next. Immediately after realizing the punishment he endured wasn't real, Tom does a complete 180 and pursues Jerry, not with violence or hatred, but with kisses, hugs, and appreciation. Obviously, Jerry having no idea what transpired. Had this wholesome moment not have happened, this episode would have failed to answer the question that I'm basing this entire essay off of. How does it impact Tom and Jerry's friendship? Well, this episode revealed something that I think we all knew but still needed confirmation for. And that is Tom needs Jerry. Despite the amount of danger and humiliation that he'd put him through, there is no Tom without Jerry, period. But as I say that, don't get it twisted. Jerry needs Tom just as much. And I mean, we just saw earlier, if it wasn't for Tom, Jerry would have not lived the lavish life of a millionaire, but I digress. Also, huge shout out to my Murray members. Thank you so much for your support. Become a Murray member today to have your name placed in my videos and shorts. To me, this moment, along with what happened throughout the episode, established their friendship. Now, did things change after this episode? Do they stop fighting and let bygones be bygones? Of course not. I mean, it's Tom and Jerry. You kidding me? But one thing is for certain, and that is Tom can say that he went through hell and back for Jerry, and that same fire that he endured forged their friendship. Now, enough about Tom for a sec. As we've seen with all the episodes discussed so far, Jerry has been the one who has needed the most protection and indirectly has been deemed the weakest. But what do you get when Jerry isn't the one in need of protection? Well, you get an episode that I'm viewing as an honorable mention in the Milky Waif. In this episode, Jerry is presented with a mysterious delivery sent to his door. And I just want to say real quick, Jerry even having a front door with a porch light to match is just really cute for some reason. But anywho, taking a further look at what appears to be a living package is revealed to be a baby mouse. This baby mouse is known as Nibbles, and the note that was with him gives Jerry the responsibility of taking care of him. Now, for whatever reason, this mouse has the appetite of a girlfriend who loves eating off of her boyfriend's plate whenever they go out, meaning he needs a lot of milk fed to him. Jerry finds that there is milk for Nibbles to drink. However, that milk belongs to Tom. Without hesitation though, Nibbles goes for a drink, but Jerry stops him in his tracks. And this is the first instance where Jerry has to show that he is the more experienced mouse. So he shows Nibbles how to properly sneak to get food. Being that Nibbles has little to no experience with dealing with predators, he quickly and often puts Jerry and himself in danger. So much so that for a brief moment, Jerry isn't able to protect Nibbles, and Tom is able to get a good hit on him. In doing so, this absolutely brings the worst out of Jerry. And let's just say Jerry basically does what Hulk did to Loki, and not only puts Tom in his place, but also makes him feed Nibbles every last drop of milk. Pause? Maybe? I think. Pause. For this episode, it was very cool to see the roles reversed again, but for a different character. Spike made Tom realize that he's not the biggest cat in town, and Nibbles made Jerry realize that he's not the smallest nor weakest in the room. While both characters serve in episodes that are honorable mentions respectively, they are both crucial in the bizarre friendship of Tom and Jerry. Ironically enough with this episode, while Nibbles got a great serving of calcium, Jerry got a huge serving of humble pie. I say that because you see how Nibbles got on Jerry's nerves a lot, like how he gets on Tom's nerves, but in actuality, Nibbles is a mirror image of Jerry, and I think that's why Jerry was able to put up with Nibbles despite the aggravation. Also, this wouldn't be one and done for Nibbles, as he'd not only be renamed to Tuffy, but would also be featured in future episodes. Of course, Jerry would serve as protector in them as well. But it doesn't just stop there though. This episode is lesser known for its depiction of Black Americans at the time, being that this was aired in the 1940s. However, it is greatly, and I mean greatly, recognized for its widely popular Polish Jerry meme. The Milky Waif, despite a brief moment where it may be racially insensitive, the story that it was trying to tell, I think, deserved a spot as an honorable mention, being that it holds value within the Tom and Jerry friendship dynamic. Now, we've seen Tom at his highest and lowest moments, and we all felt the weight of both. So what do you get when Tom and Jerry are at their lowest moment simultaneously? Well, you get what I think is the darkest moment in cartoon history. In the episode Blue Cat Blues, it doesn't waste any time in showing Tom in what he appears to be already at his lowest moment. I mean, this man is going through it. As Jerry figuratively and literally is in a much higher place, he looks down on Tom as he mopes on a set of train tracks. But what's unique about this episode is Jerry serves as narrator and lets the viewer know how exactly Tom got to this point.
If ever there were two true friends, that was us. And then she walked by.
The gal. She's slim, she's fine, and she's feline. All the things that make Tom weak to his knees. I mean, this woman makes Tom look like a literal donkey, and he'd allow it if it meant getting close to her. Jerry, however, sees all of this as Tom about to walk off a cliff. So as a good friend would do, he tried to snap some sense into him, but it would be no use. Now, the thing here though is, Tom wouldn't be the only cat in town. As a matter of fact, Tom wouldn't be the only love interest for Gal, which would introduce Butch. Butch is everything that Tom wishes he could be, and he is exactly what Gal is looking for. In one motion, he immediately steals what little thunder Tom had and claims her for himself. This wouldn't stop Tom in the slightest though. If anything, it'd make him try even harder to win her over. Once again, Jerry is trying to stop Tom in his tracks before it's too late, but Tom refuses to listen as he's eager to give her a token of his love. Unfortunately though, whatever Tom can do, Butch can do much better. Tom sends her a flower, Butch sends a bouquet. Tom sends a bottle of perfume, Butch sends the whole factory. Tom gives her a speck of a diamond, Butch gives her a whole infinity stone. Tom in every way is upstaged here, and there's no way of not admitting to that. But what adds salt to the wound here is Butch isn't just some random cat that burst onto the scene. No, Tom knows Butch, and he's actually a good friend of his not named Jerry. Whenever Tom had the house to himself, he and other friends would crash at his place, and they genuinely had a good time together. But lo and behold, their relationship would spiral into chaos because of pussy. Cats. Even with this feeling of betrayal, it would still not be enough to snap Tom out of this trance. He'd be pushed even more into desperation as he'd not only give up his life savings, but he'd sign away his appendages and ultimately his dignity just to please this girl. Now, as you may know, being that Tom is throwing away his entire life for a woman that doesn't even hold half of the feelings that he has for her, this will make Tom a certified lover boy, certified simp. In his eyes, he could do no wrong. But at Gal's house with his not so newly acquired car, Butch arrives in a much more expensive car. Gal gets in with Butch and they pull off. All Tom is left to do is watch as the person he sacrificed everything for is taken by the man he did everything with, leaving Tom with nothing. With everything he just witnessed, Tom not only spirals into a deep depression, but also turns to alcohol. As he tries to wash away into obscurity, Jerry, being the friend that he is, saves Tom. Which brings us to where we are at now. All Jerry can do is look in pity as he did all that he could to stop his friend from falling. But in contrast to his pity, Jerry is hopeful for his future as none of what happened to Tom would happen to Jerry, right? Well, and so in a moment's notice, Jerry is right where Tom is, at rock bottom. As the episode fades out, all we are left with are two depressed friends, the sound of an oncoming train, and our imagination. Now, this episode, as you may know, is very well known, not only in the Tom and Jerry community, but in the cartoon community as a whole. If you look up Tom and Jerry darkest episode, Blue Cat Blues most likely is the episode to pop up, and it's for good reason. Outside the obvious reference of unaliving yourself, this episode had so many hard-hitting messages that you could take from it. Firstly, this was an episode that was a simple story about love. Tom was a man that thought he could give all of his love to someone who truly did not reciprocate the same feelings. What doesn't help Tom's case even more is that he has a history of giving his love to those who may have not held the same sentiments, and it cost him in one way or another. This episode really speaks to how most of the time when we are attracted to someone, we unknowingly put them on a high pedestal and start to create these high expectations for them that they never asked for. Trust me, I'm extremely guilty of this, as I think I can say we all are. For me, Tom and Jerry unaliving themselves isn't the most tragic thing to happen in the episode. It's actually the fact that Tom had multiple chances to snap out of whatever trance he was in and realize that maybe this chick wasn't into him. And understand this, guys, it's not that love is the problem here. It's who you give it to in which you have to live with the results. And as said earlier, Jerry is not immune to Tom's misfortune either. He thought he would sit pretty with his life fully intact, only to see the adjacent of what happened to Tom happen to him. I remember seeing this episode as a kid, and I'd say outside the Teen Titans episode, Birthmark, and Heavenly Puss, this was an episode where when it ended, I was truly shaken to my core. So much so, I thought this would be the end of Tom and Jerry. But no matter how tragic this scene was, insanely enough to say, there was something beautiful to be taken from it. Now you may be like, but Murray, how could you possibly find beauty in something as dark as what this scene represented? It's the act of unaliving yourself after all. True, but let me ask you this question. Between these two scenes, what's the one thing that they both have in common? Well, no matter if they're at their highest moment and they're bathing in millions, or they're at their lowest, reminiscing about the people that stabbed them in the back, Tom and Jerry were by each other's side through and through, and that right there is a beautiful testament of a true friendship. Now, of course, if given the chance, Tom and Jerry will love nothing more than to smash a metal pipe over each other's heads. We see that every episode. But it's moments like these where, ironically, you truly get to see the human side of two animals that instinctively aren't supposed to be friends. That fact alone makes this moment all the more bitter, but sweet. But this isn't where their history of friendship ends, as we have one more episode to discuss. Throughout this all, we have seen Tom and Jerry at their highest, lowest, roles reversed, and beginning stages. But what do you get when you have an episode where Tom and Jerry are both at peak performance? An episode that has not only received an Oscar award, but also is the highest rated episode in all of Tom and Jerry. Well, you get the cat concerto. Ladies and gentlemen, here to perform Hungarian Rhapsody No. 5, Thomas Cat. Unlike how most Tom and Jerry episodes are a fight between a cat and a mouse, here it feels like we're about to watch a performance. And that's exactly what it is, as we see Tom dressed dapperly, about to perform in front of thousands of people. From the aesthetics alone, this episode feels like something that your music teacher would make the class watch on Friday because it was music related. But of course, it wouldn't be a Tom and Jerry episode without, well, Jerry. As Tom is performing, the hammers within the piano disturbs Jerry, with about 46 nut shots to add. Of course, with Tom dressed to the nines and all eyes on him, it would be the perfect opportunity for Jerry to take all of the spotlight away and put it on himself. As Tom performs, in textbook fashion, Jerry tries to interrupt, and Tom tries to stop him. Now, on the surface, this all sounds pretty simple, and it very much is, but there's something extremely poetic about what's happening here. As Tom and Jerry are going head to head with each other, the audience is thinking nothing of it because, in their eyes, the performance is still going on as is. And that is the poetry here, guys. When Tom and Jerry are duking it out, trying to best each other, that's when it really feels like art. And of course, with Tom absolutely exhausted and having completed the work, Jerry stands tall in the end, with a standing ovation to match. Now, you're probably asking yourself, where have I seen this episode before? Well, the cat concerto is very much similar to Looney Tunes' Rhapsody Rabbit. Or should I say that Rhapsody Rabbit is a carbon copy of Cat Concerto. Everything from the style, setting, and music used. So much so that there was a huge controversy between MGM and Warner Bros. As to who plagiarized who first. With as simple of an episode as this would be, it is one of the most culturally relevant ones in the franchise. And what you're seeing right now is musician Yanni Tan perform Hungarian Rhapsody No. 2. This video currently sits at over 65 million views on YouTube. To me, this is the episode that sums up Tom and Jerry's bizarre friendship. Through the Chaos is a piece of art that has been recognized for generations. That's why when I think about some of the most well-known friendships in cartoon history, it's hard not to put Tom and Jerry as number one because of what the show has meant to so many people for so long. And I think that's because no matter if you're 7 or 70 and you watch Tom and Jerry, the core of that enjoyment comes from the fact that Tom and Jerry's bizarre friendship is golden. When we all leave this earth one day and find that our friendships have passed, for generations more, Tom and Jerry's bizarre friendship will continue to grow, with each chair, pipe, and bat that is broken in the process. What episode do you remember from Tom and Jerry's bizarre friendship?